Let me introduce Daniel Thomas, the Chief Technology Officer. I call him Tactical Officer. He's the man behind the Gravity Sketch in terms of the coding and developing. So if you have any technical question, this is the man to talk to. And he's going to be my matrix operator today. So my name is Mike Jelinek. My background is in transportation and entertainment design, mostly at the conceptual level. And what I do, I use the Gravity Sketch quite a lot in my production, which gives me that privilege to speak on behalf of Gravity Sketch guys today. And by the way, thanks to Unity to invite me here as well. So what I'm going to talk about today, it's going to be virtual reality, it's going to be Gravity Sketch, it's going to be Unity, but it's going to be not about that final, nicely rendered and shaded car you may see through all of those marketing presentations. This is going to be about how that thing starts. So it's going to be about how these ideas are being born and how they are communicated and why it makes sense to use VR for that. So for that, I'll ask you, loan me in, Tang. Here you go. So just be careful. I might be falling into the audience, so just shout at me if I'll just start moving. So what I'm going to show you, it's the Gravity Sketch. Have you seen the Gravity Sketch? Did you? Yeah, you did. It's loaded. So how the cable is long, so let's do it this way. So it's basically a... Are we there? Yeah. Yes. So it's basically, it's kind of strange to, talk to you and not to see you. But anyway, so let's do it. So how does it work? So basically I have two controllers. I have basically all the space to move around, and I can do strokes. Beautiful. You have seen that so many times. What's beautiful here is the ability to create strokes that they are actually editable. So you can bring in the points and edit these curves on the go. So for me as a designer, it gives me that ultimate combination of a C80 precision with the ability to express myself with my full body using a gesture, using emotion. And it also gave me a challenge to move away from the habits I have earned for 20 years of my career working by the desk, clicking the mouse, operating the Wacom tablet. I had to unlearn and rediscover my body. And that is kind of the essential thing for me because, interestingly, VR, which is being blamed for dehumanizing us, is actually bringing us back to our physical bodies, which is kind of an interesting thing. But let me do a little demo how the Gravity Sketch works and how I use it in a context of creating cars, vehicles, robots, and stuff like that. Okay, so what I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna use one of the predefined packages. So here we have a kind of an SUV chassis, and I'm gonna just start drawing on top of it. So I'm gonna bring the symmetry here, and let's start from the front. And let me choose a different color to make it slightly better visible. Not this one, I like that one. Okay, so there we go. So I want to have that form. Oh, that's blue, no. Let's take that one. That's nice. Okay, so there we go. So what I'm usually starting with is just laying down a few strokes and positioning them in a space. If I want to reuse that feature, I simply duplicate it. I can turn it around. I can take the points, and by the twist of my hand, I can adjust the position of the CVs. For me, just that is an amazing advancement from pushing the CVs using the applications such as Alias. All right, so let's go. So this is going to be my fender going to the shoulder line. I can delete the points. That's another thing which makes this work really enjoyable, that you can reduce the amount of the points and gain the ultimate control over the forms. All right. Let's do the deal opening. As you can see, I don't really care about the quality when I do that because I can always come back and edit those things. Tracking. By the way, if you have any questions, just bring them on. Any wishes to see. So what I'm doing here, let's just do some details. I'm going to use a different tool here. I'm going away again, tracking where I am.
You kind of face this way.
Okay, yeah, I got to face that way. So I'm going to use that tool, but I'll use the ability to create the points directly when I need them. So now I do have that kind of a ugly headlamp, but I can instantly adjust it to match the forms I'm looking for. And of course, because I want to keep my form language or the feature, all the features kind of consistent, I can take that feature and replicate it across my scene and to use it as, different elements. Let's say the rear mirror, oops, the rear window, like that. Like that. Let's make an SUV out of that. And then I'll take it here. So now let's do some more magic. Just that kind of a quick sketch allows you to build a foundation for the initial communication. And that happens also on the level of the communication with the CAD modelers. I can give them three-dimensional information at the very early stage. However, because our communication happens mostly at the level of the two-dimensional visuals, I can create these kind of quick sketches based on those drawings. And they may get really emotional or really loosey, but there's still that technical underlay underneath of that sketch. So I can always prove that my idea is not just pretty, but it is also feasible. There's one more thing. I'm going to take those things away, bring them here, and let's start with some surfaces. So I'm going to choose, let's say, this color. And then I'll pull them this way. So I'll start like that. Then I can start editing. As you can see, it snaps the points across the center line. So I do have the perfect mirror connection here and there. So if you ask what's behind that, there are no polygons. This is all NURBS geometry, which basically allows you to take these data directly to Alias if you want, and then do the refinements. So I'm going to take those things here. I can recycle that surface here again. Pull the points. And just keep designing stuff. I'm going to make a little shortcut right now, and I'm going to load something I've done earlier. So this is a really, like a, I don't know, half-an-hour sketch, which was done exactly the same way. I've started with some curves. Here you can see the surfaces that I can edit anytime and adjust their forms on the go. Now, as I've mentioned, that data is basically instantly usable in Alias. So here's the proof. This is the same model, slightly refined, how it looks in Alias. So for me as a designer, I'm able to take the ownership over the styling solution and bring it from the initial conceptual idea to CAD modeling and through the whole design pipeline, design process. Of course, taking an ownership means also that a designer has more responsibility over the design. It's not anymore about the excuses that something is not executable because you have the power to do it in virtual reality. The other important component of it is that it liberates designers, myself especially, from the desk. It allows us to move again, to use our body and create that content in a virtual reality. How are we doing in terms of time? Are we good?
It's 5. You've had, what, 10 minutes?
10 more minutes?
You've had 10 minutes.
Okay, that's perfect. So the intention is about like 20 minutes for the total time. So can we take a look at the app and then we will jump back?
Yep.
So I'm going to load another application, which is basically an example how the refined model from Alias, which was based on that sketch, looks in the scene that I can share with my client, with my boss. And I'm using Unity for that. So what I actually did here, brought in the gravity sketch model plus the Alias model and built up a really simple VR experience, which is sent as an exe file. And I can share it with my clients, with the people I want them to experience the design I have just done. And it is pretty simple to use. So here I am in the scene. I do have a possibility to teleport. So this is how I started, a little tape drawing done in a 3D in virtual reality. Here's the sketch I have made with the gravity sketch. And here's the final model, which is intentionally shaded in kind of a clay-like material. And the intention was really to demonstrate the power of the virtual reality. Because what's going on here, it is that I'm using my own body, the ability to walk around, although I don't have that much space. But if you have an environment like guys from the Light Shade, are they? Yeah, here they are. So if you would have that room, imagine that you can do a design review in the very first day and having the similar experience as pushing the clay model up to the courtyard to catch the daylight. And here's an interesting thing. I'll just keep wearing that. And here's an interesting thing. Why we all do love the clay modeling? Is it because it's kind of a blast from the past that we are nostalgic to kind of a craft which is behind that? Or is it just the way that we enjoy working with the clay molders, talking to them, a teamwork? All of that is partially true. But what is most important, it's not the fact that we are not able to do the proper light simulation in virtual reality or on a computer. We are missing an important component, and that's the physical experience. Here, as I can walk, hopefully I won't fall, I'm using my body, and my body, the way it moves, the interoception, the way I'm aware of my height, of my size, of the length of my step, this is essentially contributing to our visual perception. So all of that clay modeling in one-to-one is really important because it requires our body to contribute to visual perception that helps us to evaluate what we see much better. And that's why I think the teleportation, the ability to walk and evaluate the data in the real time this way, in a very kind of a physical way, makes perfect sense. And what is really cute here, and that's kind of a connecting thing, Gravity Sketch plus Unity, that this could be done by one person. And for me as a designer, that I really want to sell my idea, it is really important that I can do a sketch, show it, do a refined model, and show it, and let my target, let my partner experience the way they would do it in a physical reality. So it is definitely a good example to use a car because it works nicely with the object of that size. It's going to work with the furniture, it's going to work with the architecture. But it's going to work with the movie props as well. I'm currently on a movie produced by James Cameron. I can't say what that is. And we are producing vehicle-like objects that they are being built in a very similar way as we are doing car design models. And the virtual experience is really an important part of the whole evaluation process. So I'm too quick, right?
Yeah, you've got
like 15 more minutes?
Yep.
Yeah. So it was a really kind of a brief overview what's happening. It was really quick, and I want to go back to Gravity Sketch, if you don't mind, and show you some more designing, right? Shall we do a car, or shall we try something else? Something else. Oh. Translate myself? I just walk. It could be, it could be one-to-one. I think for me the essential thing is the one-to-one experience. Whenever you start to zoom, it changes your perspective. It destroys that synchronization between your physical body and the real size of the object. However, there are a number of the other challenges. Think about the environment where designers work. Not everyone has a chance to have a whole size of VR experience. Most of us will really sit by the desk, will have those two sensors, and do their designs while sitting on a chair. because that's how the offices are looking. I'm fortunate that I do have my own studio, and I do have like a 5 by 5 meters Vive experience for that type of work. I still have to use zooming in, zooming out, but I'm trying to avoid that. So the teleportation makes really sense. Some more questions?
Have you replaced that entirely from the sketching, like two-dimensional sketching? Have you replaced two-dimensional sketching?
I still do some sketching. It's a very good question, by the way, and it's all about the form, the visual style, how the sketch look. And whenever we work in a 3D, we're tempted to dive too quickly into details or resolve the things that they are not important. The sketches gives you a chance to prioritize and communicate the priorities. And from their perspective, I really believe that non-photorealistic approach, even in 3D, make perfect sense. There are a number of the studies that they are kind of supporting it with the scientific evidence that as it involves our brain to think and evaluate the things at the abstract level, it becomes more engaged. And actually, it rewards us with a small dose of a dopamine, because it's a puzzle we are resolving. We are reading, we are analyzing the sketch. And if we accept that, and we avoid being photorealistic or too specific in the beginning of the process, even in the 3D or specifically in virtual reality, it will help in a communication. So yes for sketching, and yes for stylized sketching in virtual reality or in CAD systems. Or question? Yeah. Speak up, please.
Using from the final gravity sketch model to transferring it into...
Okay, that's a great question. You have a few options. By default, can you just do the slideshow or something like that?
Slide.
Yeah. So by default, you can export it as an OBJ, so all of the surfaces are getting exported as triangles, polygons. You can export it as the FBX or as an IGES. And then you will have a full NURBS geometry. Basically, this car, as the slideshow will run, is a perfect example of that process. I've started with a rough sketch, having 1 or 2 afternoons playing with, and this is really the data you have just seen imported into Alias. I've just put another wheels, and that's how the geometry looks when it is imported to CAD package. And can you pause that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever. Oh, that one is fine as well.
Okay.
So as you can see, the quality of the surfaces is not the one you would expect from the cast modeling. On the other side, it's good enough to define the patch layout, to define the logic of the surfacing, and save a lot of time. And of course, it allows a designer to resolve complex, typically corners, where a pillar meets with the body, or the corners of the car. These are things that really require a lot of time to resolve, either in clay or either in a computer. And once you have the NURBS data, easy. So I'm using the kind of the workflow that sometimes I bring the data directly to Keyshot to visualize them. Some of the examples are there as well. So here's by the way, if you can, yeah, that one. It shows you the quality of the surfaces as they come from the gravity sketch. So they're not class A, but there's no reason for them to be class A. They're good enough that they describe the form you're looking for. They describe the design intent. Yeah, can we go to some other? Some of them are surprisingly clean. So these are the data, not that one. Yeah, these are the data directly from the gravity sketch. So you can bring the model quite far in it. I did some, robots and androids that they have really several million polygons. It's kind of a funny thing is that as you create them in a real-time environment, they're really easy to use in real-time context. You basically throw them into Unity and you get a prop and you can walk around it. And this is really amazing. There's another aspect of it. It makes you as a creator independent on, you don't need any expensive commercial solutions for that. Unity is basically for free. The Gravity Sketch has got a really good pricing as well for kind of a single user who doesn't need all of the, layers and feature set. It's like $29. So it liberates a creator on many other levels as well. And then, as you don't need to have a target platform you export to, you prepare the presentation for Cave or anything, you just have a .exe file. And anyone who has the Rift or Oculus, the Vive or the Windows mixed reality set, everyone can just double-click the exe and be there and watch the design. Okay?
Do you use this for interiors as well?
Yes, yes. I don't have any example, but yeah, that's a really good thing because I did just recently a workshop with students, and as they are familiar using different CAD packages, I just gave them no chance to use them. I just put them in the room and say, you can do the ergonomy just by standing there. They're like, what? I know, I just trace the length of your legs. Just sit down, move the chair over there, and do your own ergonomy. Look for the regions, just make the mark, or use your colleagues to kind of start drawing with you, which is another funny thing is that my experience is that when you have more people experiencing the VR creation, people just keep touching more than they would ever do in reality. So no, the VR is not against the humanity. Actually, it makes us work more together. Yeah, interiors. Some more questions? Yeah? There will be soon to be announced, Daniel.
Yeah, we're basically rolling it out very soon, at least in a trial or beta format. But we've found that it's transforming the way people are using it. It allows you to do design reviews in real time and kind of really talk and communicate over the design as they make it, after they make it, however you want to use it.
Can you just move me on the screen, and then it would be great if you talk about the next release and what will be there and your plans.
Yeah, I mean, so the next biggest thing that's going to Gravity Sketch is definitely collaboration, multi-user workflows. We're finding that the kind of human level interaction that you can get in VR, just seeing other people, seeing the way they react, even though it's just like a virtual avatar, allows people to communicate in a way that hasn't been done before digitally in like the design environment. You know, people from in their studio in Tokyo collaborating with people in the States, as many people as we can possibly fit in there. Yeah, I don't know. Gravity Sketch has been designed as more of a toolbox than a specific workflow in mind, so there's a lot of different ways that you can use it, and you basically bring what you need to do to Gravity Sketch rather than it being very boxed into a specific workflow. So we're always surprised by the way people use all the new features. Some of the biggest things that are coming soon are like much more surface snapping, ways to make much more refined models much quicker, and basically automating things that people are doing to save people a lot of time, better import of CAD data, all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, what I'm just trying just to show you how quick you can be in sketching out forms. I'm using a technique I'm calling myself a form bashing, which is based on the kind of a simple premise that you create an abstract object that represents a specific aesthetic quality you are looking for. It could be really loosey, it could be really abstract. And then I'm using that form which contains that aesthetic quality as a kind of an essential building block. And then I keep repeating like a fractals, which makes me able to kind of keep the consistent form language across really complex objects, such as vehicle or robots for the movies. And at the same time, it allows me to be really, really quick and quickly generate the very complex objects. So I'll just keep doing that. So this is actually what's going on there. So this whole idea is about the kind of an elongated helmet of that, I don't know what that is, insectoid. And I can just start adding the details to give it a bit more kind of a functional appearance. So a bit of the kind of human anatomy is always good to kind of add. Yeah, any more questions? I'm not seeing you, just start talking.
Yeah, so Gravity Sketch itself is a completely Unity-based tool. It runs on all VR headsets that have motion-tracked controllers. And yeah, I mean, at the moment, it works very seamlessly with Unity as well. So because we're using Unity materials, shaders, and everything, it's extremely easy to integrate this into a Unity-based workflow. But we're also basically working on CAD-based workflows, such as IGES import, export, and other, industry standard file formats. So at the moment, we basically have some kind of predefined ones. Essentially, using the Unity standard shader, you can customize most of the properties of that. In a very near future release, we're going to add texture support. Everything's already UV mapped. And we also have like a cartoon shader with an outline to give you a more stylized look, flat shading, low poly shading. We're very quickly expanding the kind of materials. We're also, no, well, I won't talk about that yet because it's not a certain thing. Hey. We are starting to explore it, but we find 3DOF like input much more limiting in terms of the way you can use your body, the way you can express shapes and forms. But we are experimenting with computer screen-based workflows, so Wacom tablet, and kind of inputting your sketch data using pen and digital pen input rather than fully VR.
So as you can see, it's really a super fast way to generate the ideas really quickly. It's not a car though, I apologize for that. But I think there's one other thing that nicely illustrates how you can involve your body. So when you need to have a constraint that goes along the main axis, you simply align your controllers, and then you can just move the objects in one direction really simply, really easily. And this is something that proves that you can get all the kind of motional and emotional freedom while remaining precise, while having all of the actions under control.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't a car, but like I was kind of saying earlier, Gravity Sketch is more like a toolbox. We find these tools work very well for car design, like hard surface modeling, and export to, IGES and that kind of thing. But like we're seeing a lot of use in it in the cinema industry for things like emotion testing, like shoe design, all sorts of different things. Game design, we haven't demonstrated it here, but there's a very good set of tools for kind of blocking out and creating like very simple level designs, quickly just iterating and changing things around. There's a rigged mannequin in there, so you can bring like more like a human form in and adjust the kind of the poses and that kind of workflow, so you can bring a human for scale or just.
So can you do the animations from that? Is that what you need? That mannequin?
After you export from Gravity Sketch, you can animate all of the geometry. They're all kind of exported as individual components, so it's quite easy to build a rig on top of the geometry. We've seen people use like Mixer mode to auto-generate rigs on things that they've created. But ideally, right now, the mannequin is kind of our example of what rigged content could look like in Gravity Sketch. We're just finishing up the FBX importer so that that's something you could actually do in the tool.
So, some more questions? Anything interesting, anything you find cool? No. All right.
Time's up, so.
Time's out. So thank you guys. And